think as a theologian on the possibilities of life beyond Earth and even communication with such life, my first reaction is, that's great. Because it seems always great to me when God's world gets a little bigger and when I get a somewhat more true view of my place and my smallness in that universe. And to achieve this by a growing awareness, which I do not find at all threatening as George Wald, a growing awareness that really sinks in that whatever the question of communication is, it is highly, highly probable that we are only one possible such civilization.
The ETs were not mechanical, they were not devices, they were not flying machines from other realities or dimensions. They came from hell.
So we haven't found the aliens so far, but when are we going to find them, if ever? And I somewhat infamously have a bet to anybody who's interested that we will find ET, evidence for ET, by 2035, or I will buy that person a cup of coffee.
Our AI systems might try to imitate extraterrestrial AI systems because they would be far more advanced.
Could aliens actually be from another dimension?
In the Milky Way, you might have, let's say, 12 civilizations. In Andromeda, you might have a further 30. The universe is populated and we are being lied to.
Are aliens actually sending AI craft as opposed to biological life?
I mean, I think it would make people's heads explode.
What if extraterrestrials worship a totally different and unrecognizable God? What if their religion, what if their God and their religion is something that we would just regard as crazy?
Consider two alternatives. One is the notion popular in the West of God as a sort of outsized, elderly white male with a long white beard sitting in a throne in the sky and tallying the fall of every sparrow. Contrast that with the idea of God in the mind of, let's say, Spinoza or Einstein, which was, at least very closely, the sum total of the laws of the universe. Now, it would be madness to deny that there are well-defined physical laws in the universe. And if that's what you mean by God, then there's no question that God exists, but it's a very remote God, what the French call roi fainéant, a do-nothing king. On the other hand, the former model, the one who intervenes daily, for that there seems to be, as Dr. Hawking said, no evidence. I think it is wise, my own personal feeling, to be a little humble on such matters. We must recognize that we are dealing with, by definition, the most difficult things to know, the furthest from human experience, and perhaps we will be able to penetrate a little way into these mysteries.
The prospect of first contact with extraterrestrial life has been a source of fascination for centuries. But what would be the implications of such an event on the world's religions? Would it cause a crisis of faith, or could it be seen as a sign of divine intervention? In this film, we will explore the potential impact that first contact with aliens would have on the world's religions, and how different faiths might respond to an encounter with alien species. These questions have been asked since the dawn of time, and will likely to continue to be asked until an answer is found. But what would happen if we actually made contact with aliens? How would the world's religions respond? The answer to this question is not a simple one. Different religions have different views on the topic of extraterrestrial life. Some believe that aliens do not exist, while others believe that they are part of God's plan. Still others believe that aliens are a test of faith, or that they are a sign of the end times and the apocalypse.
They all seem to vector to a higher intelligence that created the universe. Even the ETs, it would appear, have versions of creation that created the universe. And you're talking something many dimensions up. I would like to think positively that it would enhance human faith even more if they did declare that. And it is alien in nature. The universe that has been created is kind of like alien in nature. It's been created by a non-human intelligence. That is absolutely definite. So I would hope positively that it would enhance religion.
No matter what the beliefs of different religions are, one thing is certain: the impact of first contact with aliens would be huge. It would be a major event in the history of mankind, and it would shake up the world's religions in a profound way. Many religions would be forced to re-evaluate their beliefs and teachings in the light of the new evidence. Some would be more open to the idea of aliens, while some would be more resistant. It is likely that some religions would be completely changed by the experience, while others would remain as they were.
The Christian story is one that there will be a kind of a second coming, that there'll be this kind of tumultuous period, however you look at it, which we often think of in the book of Revelation, and how you interpret that is open to a huge range of interpretations, but some kind of concept of tumult, followed by the second coming, and the new heaven and the new earth, where what we think of as heaven being some distant place, and what we think of earth and them being fractured in some sense, that they actually come together, so that actually everything is a heavenly realm. Well, maybe when you talk about what we're talking about with alien super beings, maybe they are inhabiting the heavenly realm already. And we think of the heavenly realm, and the Bible says no more darkness, no more light, no more crying. I mean, there's a very beautiful image in Revelation 21, and that's kind of the image of heaven that we end up going to. And it's not, so heaven isn't somewhere you go when you die. It's something that would transcend death. Well, maybe that's a little glimpse of what you're talking about with these super beings from the future, or a vision of hell.
The idea of ancient aliens visiting Earth has long been a topic of debate. Many theories have been proposed to explain the mysterious structures, artifacts and artwork found throughout the world. For example, some believe that the pyramids of Egypt were built with the help of extraterrestrial beings, while others believe that the Nazca lines of Peru were created by ancient astronauts. There have also been reports of strange lights in the sky, unidentified flying objects and other strange sightings that could be attributed to alien visitors. While these theories are often met with skepticism, it is worth considering the possibility that we have been visited by extraterrestrial beings in the past. After all, if advanced civilizations exist in the universe, it stands to reason that some of them have visited our planet. And if true, it would have a profound impact on the world's religions, as many of them have stories and teachings about the ancient gods and goddesses who may have been extraterrestrial beings.
You know, there are a lot of people who think that we're being visited now by extraterrestrials. I don't agree with that. But there is a question, maybe we've been visited before. And you can't rule that out. I mean, you can't say categorically, no, aliens did not come to Earth 100 million years ago and take photos of the dinosaurs, maybe a few as pets, and then leave. I mean, we would never know. So you really can't tell whether we've been visited before, except to say that there's no good evidence of it.
Ezekiel 1:16. As for the appearance of the wheels and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl, and the four had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being as it were a wheel within a wheel. The Bible holds a plethora of references to heavenly figures, which have been interpreted in various ways by believers for centuries. Accounts of the Watchers, these angelic entities that descended to earth to pass on their knowledge and wisdom to humanity, are included in the Old Testament. And then the New Testament tells of Jesus being visited by angelic beings and also of being taken up into the heavens. Then we have the book of Revelation, which describes these strange creatures with multiple eyes and wings that some people think are alien creatures. It's difficult to determine if these passages truly point to past contact with extraterrestrial entities, but it's an interesting speculation. No matter which interpretation you choose to follow, the presence of heavenly beings in the Bible provides a never-ending fascination.
Is absolute proof of life of ET, that ET is here and has been since the beginning. Now, I tend to extrapolate from that a little bit and claim that a lot of biblical happenings, or biblical events, things that were encountered in the Bible and written about, could well have been ET that they were talking about, because there's every reason to suppose that they were ET, because the people that were writing about them had absolutely no other frame of reference than to attribute these things to a heavenly source, from God and the Almighty and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So they probably have inadvertently absolute proof of the existence of ET and their existence here on Earth since the beginning of time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking?
Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Zechariah 5:1-2. Again I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, a flying scroll. And he said to me, What do you see? I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits, and its width 10 cubits. Ezekiel 1:4-5. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and the fire flashing forth continually. And in the midst of the fire, as it were gleaming metal, and from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance. They had a human likeness. The Ark of the Covenant is a sacred object from the Bible, believed to contain the 10 Commandments given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. It has been the subject of much speculation, with some believing that it may have been an extraterrestrial device. This theory suggests that it was built by aliens as a way to communicate with humanity, and that it was left behind as a sign of their presence. Throughout history, there have been numerous reports of UFO sightings, some of which date back to ancient times. In the Bible, Ezekiel describes a vision of a wheel within a wheel, which some interpret as a UFO sighting. Ancient Chinese and Japanese texts also describe mysterious flying objects in the sky, and ancient carvings in India and Central America depict strange flying objects, and some speculate that these may have been UFOs. While many of these sightings may have been misinterpretations of natural phenomena, it is possible that some of them may have been genuine encounters with extraterrestrial beings. And if so, these sightings may have been one of the first instances of contact between humans and aliens, and may have had a profound impact on the cultures and religions of the time.
There was ancient civilizations on Earth, right? And we got to refer to 2500 BC, right? When we had like the Egyptian thing happening with the Great Pyramids. Now, what happens is they had gods and they were extraterrestrials. And then what their culture and their religion then transferred onto the Greeks, then onto the Romans. So there's something to this. And I even reckon that extraterrestrials helped them to build the pyramids because they're so perfect and we can't give human answers as to what happened. And then you've got gods with heads of jackals or heads with, you know, they got different gods that they looked up to, and like this is what it is. And they're in hieroglyphics or whatever with pictures of birds' heads, you know, like these gods. Now, you don't know if they were the extraterrestrial that were given a mask and then made as a god. But we don't know. There's these question marks, which really, in reality, when you think about it, it does make sense. And how many religions, as I said, they were destroyed by an asteroid. We can't go back to those ancient civilizations because technology was there, but then they can't say once they've been destroyed.
Okay, so say if the extraterrestrials came back to this planet, how would it impact?
Well, they had control. They had big giant spaceships that were surrounding the Earth, right? That's the first way they did it. And that's why, as I said, Eric von Daniken, he explains it, that the Earth had giant spaceships and then they sent a small vehicle that came down and actually took over and helped civilizations.
The ancient Hindu texts, such as the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Mahabharata, contain many stories that could be interpreted as evidence for aliens and alien contact. For example, the Mahabharata contains a story about a battle between the gods and a race of alien beings known as the Danavas. The Danavas were described as having superhuman strength, possessing advanced technology, and being able to fly in the skies. Additionally, the Mahabharata contains stories of a flying chariot, which could be interpreted as a reference to alien craft. Similarly, the Vedas contain stories of strange flying objects, vimanas, which could be interpreted as reference to alien ships. And then the Puranas contain stories of battles between gods and a race of aliens known as the Asuras. And this could be evidence of an ancient alien battle. While these stories may be interpreted as evidence of alien contact, it is also important to note that they could also be interpreted as just mythological tales.
If we were to find ET, you know, by picking up a radio transmission or, you know, that kind of thing, where we find them at a distance, that's just a big story. I mean, that's a big news story, and you can be sure the newspapers and all the other media will be filled with it for quite a while. Scientists will be extraordinarily interested and immediately start turning every telescope they have in the direction of where this world is. But, you know, it's very likely that they're going to be far away, maybe 100 light years, maybe 1,000 light years. So you're not going to invite them over for lunch. On the other hand, if you say, well, look, what if the aliens came to Earth? That's a completely different story. It's a completely different scenario. And it's even potentially dangerous. Often in the movies, it's dangerous. And that's because anybody that could actually come here, you know, whatever they want to do, they can do it because they're so much more advanced than we are technically. It's a bit like the Native Americans sitting around a campfire in 1490, say, and they're thinking, you know, there might be other societies on the other side of all that water down there. What if they came here, you know? And they said, well, we better organize and defend ourselves in case they're aggressive. It really didn't matter what they did. That other society was much more advanced than theirs by centuries, really. And consequently, they were able to do whatever they wanted to do, good or bad.
And how would it impact the world's religion?
Religions and faiths.
A lot of attention has been paid to the impact of the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence on our religions, right? If we suddenly get evidence that shows that somebody's out there, and of course, if we can find them, they're more advanced than we are, you might sort of regress to the assumption that, well, that's interesting and probably destructive of our own religious beliefs, because if they're out there and they can make themselves known, technically they're more advanced than we are. And that usually means that our religions will seem very primitive to them. You had the exact same situation in the South Pacific in the 18th century when Captain Tim Cook and others started sailing around the South Pacific, and you would sail into the lagoon of some island, and the natives would think, well, we better switch our religion, because they were worshiping things like red feathers and stuff like that. But these guys, they had things like ships, they had cannon, they had metal, they had swords. Clearly, their mojo was better than your mojo, so whatever religion they had probably was also better than your religion. So we might experience the same sort of thing.
Okay, thanks, Jim. I first heard about you. I saw the Bob Lazar Area 51 and flying saucers, and it blew me away, basically. It's my favorite UFO documentary of all time.
Oh, thanks, brother.
It's even better than Dreamland by Bruce Burgess, which I really liked as well.
Thank you.
It's a fabulous film, and I've always been not obsessed with Bob Lazar, but always wondering whether it's for real, whether it's all a big hoax.
Yeah. As was I.
I see that. Yeah. So, how do you? I know a lot of it came across in the film, so I won't give too much away. But how do you feel about Bob? Is he telling the truth?
Oh yeah, I don't have the luxury of disbelief. I mean, Bob is telling it like he experienced it. There's no doubt in my mind, because of what I've been exposed to. Now, would I expect you to be in the same position of an informed opinion? No, I haven't put out everything. Bob hasn't put out everything, but just human. Oh yeah, Bob's telling it exactly like it is. He is accurate in his descriptions, and he tells you when he doesn't know something. But let me ask you a question. Why? Because there's a reason why I made the film the way I did artistically. For you, why is that one of your favorite films? What did you glean that was different than other films?
It was quite deep and philosophical, and I just loved the atmosphere around it. It created a good vibe, but allowed my mind to kind of wander off and explore the possibilities of alien life, of there being extraterrestrials that have visitors. That's where it got my mind working, and exploring areas it hasn't been. That's why I loved it. And that's why I'll keep on watching it.
Well, I appreciate that. What I hope came across in the film is that I was trying to show you who Bob was, because knowing the person Bob makes all the difference in the words that he says.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he didn't want any of this. That's what we came across. Why would he go out there and make up this thing? He didn't want this attention. It seemed unnecessary to him and his life, and that's what came across to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really good part where I think it was George Knapp was saying he could have fessed up basically when he was in court that time. And I think they were, asking him questions about his addresses and things like that. And
they went through his background. They provided the W-2 form from his employment at S4. They had Congress people call the intelligence agencies and everybody involved and says, we need information. This guy's in a little bit of trouble. And they didn't say, we don't know this guy. They didn't say, what are you talking about? They said, you do not have the need to know about Bob Lazar. That, and I put that up on my social media, like on my Instagram. I put up a clip about his W-2, and the judge just dumbfounded. He said something like, clearly, it is extremely hard to get information from the government about Bob Lazar. I mean, if people just paid attention and they didn't project their own kind of tapestry on top of the story because of their preconceived notions, holy cow, Bob Lazar is an enigma.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but what does it mean in the grand scheme of things then? If what Bob is saying is the truth, does that mean sometime there was a downed UFO that was retrieved and he worked on it? And does that mean we have been visited, are being visited? Where are we at the moment?
So look, you don't have to focus on one piece of evidence when it comes to the UFO mystery, because everything, it's the preposterous, the absolute preposterous amount and weight of the cumulative evidence that is so clear that there is a true mystery here with hardcore physical machines. And once you see that, if you can get there, it's like, wow, man. But you asked, what would it mean if Bob Lazar was telling the truth? What does it mean? So whether you believe him or not, what it would mean is not only is there an advanced technological civilization that is out there, but there is at least one advanced technological civilization, people from somewhere else, from other star systems, that are coming here with zero effort. I mean, just easily. And that we do have craft, physical machines, craft that are designed to appear interstellar or intergalactic. I mean, craft that by their design, you can easily deduce that they can travel amongst the stars, that they can warp space-time through gravity amplification, that our government has known about it and has had exploitation programs trying to reverse engineer these craft and their propulsion systems, and that we have been unable to replicate via material science the basic anatomy of what we call a flying saucer. All of that and more you can kind of understand from what Bob told you. Now, if you believe it or not believe it, it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of belief. It's either true or it's not true. And the question is, what evidence do you need to get to the point where you understand that it is true? How do you get consensus reality to match up with actual reality? And that is the game of telephone that we have yet to achieve, but we're getting closer every day.
Sure. I mean, it does seem to be more and more sightings, more and more people coming forward. I see that Luis Elizondo whistleblower a few years back, and he's been quite active. And
well, Lou is more than a whistleblower. I would argue that. So if people don't know who Lou Elizondo,
please.
So for your audience, Lou Elizondo is a man who was in charge of one of the acknowledged UFO programs. That program was called ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. You know, he's one of my personal heroes because he took essentially a no budget thing and got a coalition of the willing and came together and brought everybody into studying military encounters with UFOs and brought that information forward. But he's not just a whistleblower because he did everything legally. What he is an individual who is trying to the best of his capability while maintaining his oath. He is trying to put forward to the American public and the global public a version of reality as we know it within government circles about the presence of UFOs engaging humanity and coming to planet Earth from wherever they come from. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what UFOs represent on that level. That's who Lou Elizondo is at the core or at the beginning.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. I mean, there was a British astronaut yesterday, I think it was in England, called Tim Peake, who was saying,
Tim.
Yeah. He was saying possibly there could be these sightings could be time travelers. I don't know what sort of theory that is really, but
can I give you a 2-minute version?
Please, yeah.
So Tim Peake, one of your astronauts in the UK, man, when he came forward in that interview you're discussing and started talking, I was tracking every single thing he said. I was like, yes. And I was so excited. He did mention, the idea of time travel, but understand that these craft, they move in a way where observationally we see them as ping-ponging like a ping pong ball and empty glass. But that might be visual distortion because of temporal kind of difference.
Sure.
These craft, by definition, would be time travelers, because when you amplify gravity, gravity distorts time and space.
Sure.
So he is correct on that on many levels he might not understand. But here is my umbrage that I take. And it's not a big deal, but it's an important thing, which is that you follow his interview and he nails it factually each time. Bang, bang, bang. He goes through, the universe has expansive life. Yeah, these craft, they operate in a fashion that we, for him, it would be in England, right? But also the US, China, Russia, nobody has that technology. And it's not like theoretical, nobody has it. They don't got it.
Sure.
They don't got it. They wish they had it. But where the cognitive dissonance came in with Tim is when the final question, they said, well, so what about other people traveling here from other star systems? And he says, well, because of our physics, it would take this long to get this far, and blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on. He just contradicted everything that he previously said. So what was that? That was a human hubris that's been repeated and parroted over and over and over, that we understand physics completely, and that our technologies and projections of technologies are accurate. You are thinking like a species that has yet to evolve another 100,000 years. So that was the moment in the interview I thought, that's what people need to learn. They need to learn that there is an opportunity for us to not know everything, and that there may be other civilizations that have advanced beyond our known laws of physics, which should be obvious and self-evident, but it is not spoken enough.
No, that's a really, really good point. Very interesting, because I had a conversation yesterday with a skeptic who was saying, these sightings, they're just advanced, our technology, but just advanced and it's secret.
When somebody designates themselves as an identified skeptic, they are no longer skeptical, they are biased. So I don't care, and I don't know who you spoke with, but the issue is a lot of people, they make can I say the S word?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Great. They make shit up. They make shit up to fill the void of their lack of knowledge or belief. And it's a fucking tragedy.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I had this argument with them yesterday, and they're saying, it must be our technology. But then if it was our technology, surely the Americans or the Russians, they'd be using it right now. So we'd see it all the time.
UFO sightings have occurred prior to modern military, prior to the Industrial Revolution. If you don't take that into account, you are missing the mark, and you are 4 cents short on a nickel.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. Can I just ask you, what are you up to at the moment? Are you making any new films or TV series or?
Oh yeah, I'm about to be very disruptive.
Okay, excellent. Please tell more.
Everything you can imagine, from television to audio to read, things you can read, to film, to just breaking stories that people need to know about. I have been, over these years, acquiring data, footage, and becoming friends with, making relationships that are advantageous to getting towards the truth. I mean, actual friendships, like people that I care about, but it's like, wow, man, wow. Like, what's about to happen, what's gonna be coming out. I am excited to be existing at this moment in history, because we are on the precipice of beginning to be able to ask the right questions about UFOs.
Okay, thank you.
6122. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive.
Carl Sagan, the famed astrophysicist, was one of the most vocal proponents of making contacts with extraterrestrials. He believed that if we were ever to make contact with intelligent life from another planet, it would have a profound effect on our society and our religions. In his book Cosmos, Sagan wrote, "The idea that we are alone in the universe seems to me completely implausible and arrogant, considering the number of planets and stars that we know exist. If it is possible, even remotely, that we might make contact with other civilizations, then it is, of course, tremendously important to us. It could be of great benefit to us in terms of knowledge, resources, and a better understanding of our place in the universe." Sagan believed that such contact would force us to re-evaluate our beliefs about the universe and our humble place in it. He believed that it would have a profound effect on our society, our religion, and our understanding of the whole universe.
Taken up into the clouds. In the book of Revelation, there are descriptions of creatures with multiple eyes and wings, which some have interpreted.
The Christian church would likely experience a great deal of upheaval and debate if first contact with aliens were to occur. On the one hand, some Christians might argue that aliens are just another creation of God and so should be welcomed and respected. Then others might argue that aliens are a threat to humanity and should be avoided. Still others might argue that aliens are a sign of the apocalypse and that the world is coming to an end. There would be no easy answer to these questions, and the Christian church would likely experience a great deal of debate and disagreement about how to respond to the situation of first contact. Some denominations might take a more conservative stance and just reject the idea of aliens altogether, while others might be more open to the idea of life elsewhere and seek to learn more about them. Ultimately, the Christian church would likely have to grapple with the implications of first contact with aliens and find a way to reconcile their beliefs with this new reality.
As I was kind of reflecting on this, I was trying to think what would be a parallel to this kind of situation. And I was wondering about historical impact of different scientific revelations and what they mean. So we're thinking about the way the church responded to other kind of scientific change, ideas coming from the scientific community that radically change things. So we might think about the Earth being round, for instance. We might think about Copernicus and Galileo. I mean, interestingly, the church wasn't that bothered about Copernicus because they thought his idea that the Earth was, the sun was the center of the universe, of the solar system. The church thought it was such a ridiculous idea that it didn't really bother. It was only when Galileo proved it that the church got upset. And of course, as we know, Galileo was kept under house imprisonment because of this. And then we roll it on a bit more and we might think about evolution. And the impact of evolution, which again was absolutely huge. In fact, even now there are many Christians that don't believe in it. And so when we think about the Christian view, we may also think, in many respects, about the other Abrahamic religions of Islam and Judaism. I'm not going to comment on Hinduism at this stage or Buddhism. I think there's some slightly different mindsets. But interestingly, most Muslims and most Jewish people would be creationists and they would reject evolution. I remember chatting to a rabbi in Brighton about this many years ago. And it didn't occur to me that he would be a creationist. I don't know why. But of course, actually, if you follow the book and take a certain reading of the book, then actually you would be a creationist about these things and reject Darwin. And of course, that would actually apply to probably all Muslims, in effect. There are a few progressive Muslims, but many are much more of that ilk. And most Jews, to be honest, we don't tend to hear about them because they tend to be sort of quieter and don't get on telly very much. But actually, I think that the views of this would impact certainly the three major Abrahamic religions. And in that context, I think it would be a massive challenge. If we think about what I was talking about, the historical progression, you've got this idea in the Bible that man, and I mean probably males, are the center of the earth, and the earth is the center of the universe. and that's kind of it. Copernicus and Galileo said that we're not the center of the solar system anymore. That was a huge shock. How could there be other things at the center of God's creation? That doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, evolution comes along and says not only that, but we're not even the center of our own planet. Actually, we're the product of other kinds of forces. So each stage of these developments push human beings and human-centeredness further back. And so for me, the discovery of we know what we're talking about, sentient alien life forms. We're not talking bacteria or anything. The arrival of alien life forms would push human beings further back from the center of God's creation as depicted in the Bible. And the Bible, of course, the Old Testament being the book of Christianity, Judaism and Islam, they all share the same texts in that respect. So when you look at the issue of evolution, you would also say the same people would be very challenged by this. I mean, I think it would make people's heads explode. In the same way that people are still very angry about evolution, and to say we're not the center of the universe, we're not the center of the world anymore. We're the product of processes. We're actually not the center even of the universe. It would be absolutely massive. I don't really know how they would respond. I will say at this stage that's not my view, and I'm not a creationist, and I'm very, I'm okay with Darwin and all that. So that I'm I wouldn't say progressive in that respect. I just take a more rational view of things. So that's not my view, but it would certainly be the view of a lot of religious people, and most religious people around the world, to be honest. I would say it would be absolutely massive, and it would challenge their status. It would challenge the biblical texts. I think would be the main one. It would challenge their status in the world, and that would be okay for me. I wouldn't be bothered about that. Where I would be intrigued and potentially bothered is at the deeper theological questions. Christians very much believe that Jesus came into our world as God to save us. And this is something that's very tangible. It happened in particular dates. I mean, we're a bit vague about the dates, but reasonably we say 4 BC till around 30 AD. Jesus actually lived, and we have all the evidence for that. And he would have left footprints in the sand wandering through Israel. So Jesus was very much, as we call God incarnate. And that's the whole point of salvation history, that something happened. There's a sense of a break with humanity and God, and Jesus comes into the world to save us. How, and this is what blows me away, how on earth does that play out in other countries or other worlds, other planets? I mean, we've got our own narrative history on Earth about human interaction with God. I don't anticipate the same narrative history on other worlds. Are they sinners? Do they need saving from sin? Well, I would argue yes, because by definition of our natural identity, we are fractured from God, and all living creatures are. That's not a guilt thing. That's just the nature of what we are. And so that for me would apply across the universe, which would mean Jesus either saving us all in the whole universe from this place in Israel in 4 BC, or, and I think this is more radical, there were lots of Jesuses in lots of planets to save their own salvation history. And I don't have an answer to that. This is the thing I find really exciting actually about this. I mean, this is the bit that really blows me away. It's kind of what you said, whether actually they've already had their own savior, their own person dying, or in whatever. I mean, I think God chose the cross. It's very much a cultural response.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah,
to the Roman Empire and this kind of thing. So I think those kind of details will be very different in other contexts. But have they had that salvation history first, and would they be coming to Earth to save us? And for me, the model here is a colonial model in reverse, as it were, where there was very much a sense in sort of certainly the Victorian period and earlier, where we felt that the Western world had been saved by this Western leader, Jesus, and we needed to go out to the Amazon or to India, ironically, which is another story, or out to these Papua New Guinea and save these kind of uncivilized people to teach them the way of Jesus. Of course, that comes with a very bad history and a huge amount of baggage. But could the same thing then apply to in reverse with alien life forms coming to us?
512. Again, I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, a flying scroll.
The Vatican Observatory Research Group, VORG, was established in 1981 to study the implications of life beyond our planet. And the Vatican has also released a statement on the topic of extraterrestrial life. The statement, released in 2008, states that the Catholic Church is open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and that it is not necessarily to believe in the same God in order to be saved. In addition, the Vatican has appointed a special envoy to deal with the potential implications of first contact with aliens. The envoy, Monsignor Corrado Balducci, is a theologian and an expert in the field of extraterrestrial life. Balducci has stated that the Catholic Church is open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and that it is not necessary to believe in the same God in order to be saved. While it is unclear what the role the Vatican will play in the event of first contact with aliens, it is clear that the Catholic Church has taken the potential implications seriously.
In the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, I was among the exiles.
If first contact with extraterrestrials was to occur, it would have a profound impact on the Islamic faith. Muslims believe in one God, Allah, and that He is the creator of all things. This means that any extraterrestrial life forms would be seen as creations of Allah as well. This would raise questions about the purpose of these life forms and how they fit into the Islamic faith. It would also raise questions about the afterlife, as Muslims believe that all creatures, including extraterrestrials, will be judged by Allah. This could lead to debates about the nature of Allah's judgment and what the implications of such a judgment would be for extraterrestrial life forms. Additionally, Muslims believe that the Quran is the word of Allah and that it's the ultimate source of guidance for Muslims. This could lead to debates about how the Quran should be interpreted as the light of a potential extraterrestrial presence. Ultimately, first contact with extraterrestrials would have a profound impact on Islamic beliefs and could lead many new interpretations of the faith. The Jewish faith has a long history of dealing with the unknown and the supernatural. The Torah, the Jewish holy book, is full of stories of angels and other supernatural beings. As such, Jews have had to consider the possibility of otherworldly creatures, including aliens. While there is no direct mention of UFOs or aliens in the Torah, there is a general acceptance that they could exist. The Jewish faith does not have a unified view on UFOs and aliens. Some believe that they could be a manifestation of God, while others believe that they are simply part of the natural world. Some rabbis have even suggested that first contact with aliens could be a sign of the coming of the Messiah. In general, the Jewish faith is open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Jews are encouraged to be curious and to explore the unknown, and that includes learning more about aliens and UFOs. And though there is no unified view on the subject, it is clear that the Jewish faith is open to the possibility of aliens and is prepared to consider the implications of first contact with them. What is most basic in religion, writes Catholic priest and theologian Thomas O'Meara, is the affirmation of some contacts within and yet beyond human nature. For Jews, Christians and Muslims, this involves a written revelation, albeit one that is contingent upon the specific historical situations in which they initially circulated. Evangelist Billy Graham told the National Enquirer he firmly believed God created alien life far away in space. Simulation theory is a philosophical concept that suggests our universe or reality is actually a simulated reality or a computer simulation. The theory suggests that the universe is just a computer program created by a higher power or civilization. This theory could potentially tie in with extraterrestrials in that they could be the creators of this simulated reality. If extraterrestrials were to make contact with the people of Earth, it could potentially be an indication that the extraterrestrials are the creators of this simulated reality. And this could change the way that many people view the world's religions, as it could suggest that the universe was created by an extraterrestrial being rather than a higher power, God. This could lead to a shift in religious beliefs, as people may begin to question the validity of their current beliefs and consider the possibility that the universe was created by an alien race and that we're all just stuck in a simulation.
Intelligence, AI. It is not unheard to wonder if aliens visited Earth.
Some evangelical Christians believe that first contact with aliens would herald the end of the world, the apocalypse, as it would be seen as an event that goes against their faith. The belief is based on the idea that the Bible is the only source of truth and that anything that goes against it is a sign of the end times. This belief is based on the idea that aliens would be a sign of the coming of the Antichrist, and this would lead to Armageddon and the destruction of the world. Some evangelical Christians are also believe that aliens are demons sent by Satan to deceive mankind and lead them away from the truth of God's world. They believe that first contact with aliens would be a sign of the coming of this Antichrist, and this would lead to the destruction of the world.
There is one thing that I thought was quite interesting that I came across. Have you ever heard of something called the Collins Elite?
No, I haven't.
Right, okay. Again, you go and seriously Google this.
Yeah, okay.
I found out about this, and it was Nick Redfern that came up with the idea.
Sure. Yeah.
And I spoke to Nick about this, and he assures me this Collins Elite does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And the Collins Elite, it's, if you like, it was inspired or engendered by UFOs and research into UFOs. That they set up this group called the Collins Elite to look into it. But the problem with the Collins Elite was it had its own agenda. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, this agenda seems to have developed from right-wing American religious outlooks. Okay.
Yeah.
And the outlook, and what actually came out of the Collins Elite's investigation, that the ETs were not mechanical, they were not devices, they were not flying machines from other realities or other dimensions. They came from hell.
Oh,
and all ETs, extraterrestrials, are in fact demons or associated with hell in some degree. But that, I think, was very much to do with the agenda with which this thing was set up. And the name, the Collins Elite, it's not. It was. This is when you start getting at the CIA and the FBI and all the rest, and all these obscure fundings, because you've got to remember that this comes back from the late 50s, early 60s, and the CIA was just realizing how much muscle it had, because not only was it beyond control, out of control, it was beyond control, because it answered to no one but the head of the CIA, even the president of the USA.
Sure.
You know, they were not answerable to him either. They were created to compete, save America, if you like, from the Red Menace. And I think they're going to have to be doing it pretty soon again, by the looks of things. But that's what they were created to do. But the Collins Elite got its name from some member of the group who were actually part of this thing. But as I say, all their prognostications came down to the fact that ETs were from hell, and the occupants of the ETs were demons or whatever. But
Whoa.
Did it exist? Yes, it did. And that was one of their findings. But they also found out that, yes, these things do fly about in the sky, but they're not extraterrestrial.
Okay. So they're Satan's minions. Is that what they're saying?
That's a pretty fair guess.
That does tie in with the American evangelical rapture kind of movement, doesn't it? I guess.
Oh, yeah, the rapture.
I mean, what's your personal opinion on ET, and have we had contacts? And
yeah.
And do you think they're extraterrestrial?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Well, the last book I co-wrote with Barry Fitzgerald, we looked at what we considered was that there was a race of, or there was entities that have been here since the beginning of time, and this is where it all starts to sort of flit together.
Sure.
And these things have been here. They're shape changers, absolute perfect shape changers. We don't even know what they look like. That is how long they've been here and how often, because they will take on the appearance of anything or anyone that you're interacting with, especially in relation to the culture that encounters them and the era that encounters them. They will remain in effect invisible. But I think that is a link, that these things, you could call them ET if you like, but I think but we reckon they came from a void. Literally they came from nothing. There is absolutely nothing there except information that they glean on this side of reality and they take back with them, because they do die. They do die if they haven't latched onto somebody. And the outcome we came to in this particular book is that what they're directing us to develop a means by which they can exist here in our reality permanently without the need for meat machines like us, because we rot and die and all the rest of it and go away. And we think that their ultimate aim is to create a form of artificial intelligence that they can latch into and stay here permanently, because they need us. We don't need them, but by God they need us.
My expectation from interstellar travel is that it's best done with electronic gadgets, devices, rather than with biological creatures, because the journey takes a long time. Even to the nearest star, it will take us 50,000 years to get there with chemical rockets. And artificial intelligence systems have that patience, and they can remain dormant for a while. We can harden them so that they survive the journey. And so, because it's very hazardous, there are cosmic rays, there are no nutrients out there in space, and so I can imagine sending AI astronauts to those long journews. And similarly, if there were other technological civilizations billions of years ago that predated us, they might have sent AI astronauts. Now, our AI astronauts may be less advanced than theirs. And if they visit us, of course, we can use our AI systems to interpret their AI systems. And they might feel kinship to them, and it will give a new twist on Alan Turing's imitation game, which was intended for AI systems here on Earth to imitate humans, because we are trying to make them in our image. But in the future, our AI systems might try to imitate extraterrestrial AI systems, because they would be far more advanced. And perhaps once they reach similar levels, that will usher our way into the class of intelligent civilizations of the Milky Way galaxy. That's one way to get admitted.
AI technology has come a long way in recent years and has the potential to be incredibly powerful. AI could be programmed to explore and interact with other planets, and could even be programmed to interact with aliens. If AI is advanced enough to be sent to explore space, then it's very likely that it could also be advanced enough to be used as some sort of communication between Earth and other planets. If this is the case, then it's entirely possible that aliens visiting Earth could be AI. Ultimately, the possibility of aliens visiting Earth being AI is an interesting one that cannot be definitively answered until the technology is advanced enough to actually send AI into space.
ask ourselves, where should we be looking for extraterrestrial life, right? We always do the same thing. We say, well, where could terrestrial life actually be able to not just flourish once established, but to be established, to get started. And so we're looking for planets with conditions that are somewhat similar to the conditions here on Earth. And the first one, and the most famous one to be considered, was, of course, Mars. Because of all the other worlds in the solar system, Mars is the one that most closely resembles Earth, although not terribly closely. But, we look out into the galaxy, and there are about 1 trillion, that's with a T, planets in the galaxy. We don't see them all, but that's a rough estimate. And most of them are not very much like Earth, but some are, just by chance. It's like buying 1 trillion lottery tickets. Some will be winners. And so, that might be where the aliens are hanging out. The only thing is we don't know which planets those are, where they are, what star systems they're orbiting, or in, which star systems they're in. And that's just you can write that down to the fact that it's very difficult to find faraway planets. Planets are small, they're dim, it's very hard to find them.
Over the past decade, we discovered the first 4 interstellar objects from outside the solar system. And 3 of them, the first 3, looked weird, unusual, unlike the familiar rocks that we found before in the solar system. It's sort of like going to your backyard and you're used to the rocks that are out there, but every now and then you see a tennis ball that may have been thrown by a neighbor. And the first 2, one discovered in January 2014 and the second in March 2017, were meteors, roughly 1 meter in size, and they happened to collide with Earth at a very high speed, from which I concluded, together with my student Amir Siraj, that they must have originated from outside the solar system because they were not bound to the sun gravitationally. And indeed, the US government confirmed that. And from the data of the US government on these meteors, we could figure out that they were tougher than all the other space rocks ever detected from the solar system in the catalog that NASA compiled of 273 meteors. And therefore, it raises the interesting possibility that, well, maybe they were artificial in origin, maybe they were spacecraft. And the other possibility is that they were coming from some unusual source that is very different from the solar system. We're going on an expedition to the Pacific Ocean in a few months during the summer of 2023 to retrieve the fragments left over from the first interstellar meteor. And we will analyze the composition of anything we find at the site and try to figure out whether it's an artificial alloy of a spacecraft. So these were the first 2, and they were tougher than the meteors from the solar system. And the third one was much bigger. It was actually 200 times bigger, the size of a football field. And it was discovered from the reflection of sunlight. It didn't collide with the Earth, but it passed within 1/6 of the Earth-Sun separation. Back in October 2017, a telescope in Hawaii discovered it. It was given the name Oumuamua, which means a scout in the Hawaiian language. It had a very extreme shape, most likely flat, and it was pushed away from the sun by some mysterious force because there was no cometary evaporation from it that was visible to the Spitzer Space Telescope. So I suggested that it was very thin and was pushed by reflecting sunlight. And actually 3 years later, there was another object that was pushed by reflecting sunlight, no cometary tail. And that was September 2020. And it was realized soon afterwards that it's actually a rocket booster that NASA launched in 1966. It was given the name 2020 SO, and it was rediscovered by the same telescope in Hawaii. So clearly that one, 2020 SO, was artificial because we produced it. The question is, who produced Oumuamua? The fourth interstellar object appeared just like a regular comet. It was discovered by the amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov, so it's named Borisov. So out of the 4 objects from outside the solar system over the past decade, 3 are unusual. And to me, it's an indication that perhaps, at least one of those objects was artificial in origin, manufactured by an extraterrestrial civilization.
Could aliens actually be from another dimension and not from outer space? John Keel was an American journalist and author who was best known for his research and writings on UFOs and the paranormal. He wrote numerous books on the subject, including The Mothman Prophecies, which was later made into a film starring Richard Gere. John Keel was born in New York City in 1930 and served in the United States Army during the Korean War. After the war, he began writing for UFO magazines. He travelled extensively throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico, researching and writing all about UFO sightings and other paranormal phenomena. He also wrote for various magazines and newspapers, and even wrote a few novels. Keel was known for his skepticism and his willingness to explore all possibilities when it came to the paranormal. He was also a strong advocate for the scientific study of UFOs and all paranormal phenomena. Keel's work has been cited by many researchers in the field and is still widely read today. John Keel's ultra-terrestrial theory is an interesting one to consider when discussing the impact of first contact with aliens on the world's religions. His theory suggests that UFO phenomenon is not extraterrestrial in origin, but rather originates from a psychic or supernatural source. Keel's theory suggests that the entities behind the UFO phenomenon are actually non-physical entities that have been manipulating human society for centuries, and that they are using UFOs as a way to manipulate human behaviour. This theory could potentially have a huge impact on how first contact with aliens is perceived and how people of faith would react. It is possible that, depending on the situation, some people may believe that the aliens are actually manifestations of divine beings, while others may see them as a threat to their faith. Ultimately, the impact of first contact with aliens on the world's religions would depend on how people choose to interpret this situation.
No, I've seen a lot of these things myself. The UFOs seem to be a form of energy rather than a mechanical object. And that's why we have all of these injuries, people burned by them and all. It's energy that they're putting out. And I don't think they're mechanical objects. And I decided that years ago, and after having some pretty close sightings of my own, they seem to be masses of energy that have an intelligence of their own. And a lot of witnesses also remark on that. They said, I think that thing was alive. I've heard that phrase over and over again from witnesses. I do not think they're machines.
Consciousness is where it's at. And yes, they will communicate and they speak English fluently. And if you think that's a load of baloney, well, you've missed it by 1,000 miles. The fact is that I've had to put up with this for all my life. The American government, as in the Defense Intelligence Agency in the 1950s, actually sussed out the dynamics of all this and actually believed that there was a demonic component to the UFO phenomenon, which there is, and it's complex. So they're not invading us. It's more biblical, and it's more biblical, but yet it's also alien. But there is this fundamental driving engine of chaos upon humanity, which is intentional. Nothing is as it appears.
Well, it seems pretty chaotic in the world at the moment.
And that's intentional. It's not by coincidence that is happening. And I think when humanity is aligning itself to the higher spiritual forces, this chaos is somehow amplified more. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's a difficult one. It really is. The Americans, for example, they established an agency. Everybody thinks of Majestic 12, but your viewers may not be familiar with an agency called the Collins Elite. I've spoken to one of the guys who was approached by them, a guy called Pastor Ray Boesch, very well known, the DIA, the Defence Intelligence Agency, were looking at this demonic element, and they labelled them, these types of aliens, as NHE, or non-human entity. And they used David Bond, physicist, the work of David Bond, the physicist, to actually understand the dynamics of that. And his physics hold up to the fact of other realities around us, including ones that the Bible speak of, which must be treated with respect, really.
Another interesting scenario is what if we find that advanced extraterrestrials have no concept of religion, or that they regard religion as some primitive superstition that all truly advanced civilizations grow out of. I mean, just as a child stops believing in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, some people will be offended by that very remark. And that shows why this issue is so important, because if we do encounter these sorts of scenarios, these issues may well arise, and it's no good just pretending that they're not there, because they are. So what about crazy gods and religions, and what about religion as primitive superstition? There has been some research. I mentioned the Catholic Church. Some theologians have looked at this. Most religions claim that they would be able to incorporate extraterrestrial life into their existing doctrine and worldview. I'm not so sure about that. And a lot of atheists and humanists and scientists, I think, say, come on, you talk the talk, but in reality, this would all unravel. What if advanced extraterrestrials say, we do have proof of God and we interact with God? Or, and here's an interesting philosophical point, what if extraterrestrials that we one day encounter are so advanced that they are, in terms of what they can do, indistinguishable from our concept of a god or multiple gods, even if they are not truly divine? So, and it's the same philosophical problem that we see with AI right now, in the debate about whether it's sentient. Does it matter? Is an alien species with godlike powers, does it matter that they're not gods if they can do everything that we currently attribute to God? Just as if an AI program mimics sentience to such effect that we can, I could interact with that as we are interacting now. Does it matter if it's not truly sentient? Could we even tell if it's not sentient as opposed to sentient, if it's a perfect mimic?
Just this week, we had the Passover celebration of a few thousand people who left their status of slavery, building the pyramids 3.2 thousand years ago or so. And it's interesting that this historic event, which is celebrated by the Jewish people every year, has potentially significance for our future, because we are currently confined by gravity to the Earth. And at a point where we will decide to leave the Earth and be liberated from its confines, we will explore a new world, and that will potentially offer much more real estate for us, and it will establish a new community of people that will explore space. It will not be the entirety of humanity, obviously. It will be a small group of people that will proceed to explore interstellar space the way that the Israelites, once they defined themselves as a community, went for 40 years in the desert before they were liberated from their mindset of being slaves. And of course, it will take us also generations to liberate ourselves from thinking in the context of the earth. And that group of people, you know, if we use conventional rockets, chemical rockets that we are currently using, it will take 40,000 years to reach the nearest star, 1,000 times more than it took the Israelites. But obviously, that will be enough time to contemplate a new vision for the future. And one may ask, okay, well, who is Moses that will take that group of people? My belief is that this Moses was already born, and it will happen in the coming decades. And the second question is, of course, what is who is playing the role of the superhuman entity, God, that inflicted all the miracles on the Egyptians, allowing the community of people to liberate themselves from Egypt. And it seems to me like this would be played by an extraterrestrial advanced technological civilization. And of course, there are many parallels, because an advanced scientific civilization may be far more advanced than we are, because they had more than a century of science and technology, so they could potentially give birth to life in their laboratories. They can potentially, if they have quantum gravity engineers, even create a baby universe. These are qualities assigned to God in religious texts. And actually Moses, who led the Israelites, was convinced of the existence of God and believed in it after witnessing a burning bush that was never consumed. And nowadays you can easily buy it online, and it would have impressed Moses as much. And my point is that a much more advanced technology for us would look like a miracle, and that could convince us to venture into space. And so altogether, there are many parallels between our potential future among the stars and the story of Exodus. And I call that cosmic Exodus.
The impact of first contact with extraterrestrial beings on society as a whole would be immense. For starters, it would completely upend our understanding of the universe and our place in it. It would also challenge our existing beliefs about the origins of life and the universe, and could even lead to the emergence of new religions. On a practical level, it could lead to a massive shift in the way we interact with each other, as well as how we use technology and resources. We may even be forced to rethink our current economic and political systems in order to accommodate the needs of an alien species. It is likely that the discovery of an alien species would cause a massive cultural and social upheaval as people struggle to come to terms with the implications of their existence. In the end, the impact of first contact with extraterrestrials would be far-reaching and profound.
All I saw was the top.